Welcome to For the Plot podcast, where being lost is just going to be part of the storyline. For our first episode today, I'm really excited to be introducing one of my oldest college friends, Ayorinde. Her and I met back in 2019 during a summer internship in New York City, and we've been close ever since. One thing I know about this girl is that she is always side hustling, specifically within the health and wellness space. She's been doing it since her early 20s and even now while holding down her 9-to-5. Stay tuned to hear more about her journey in this space, as well as what it takes to begin pursuing your passions.
3, 2, 1.
He was so excited to show me that yesterday. He brought it up after I don't know where he was. I think he was at the dog park.
Yeah.
And he came upstairs and he was like, "Oh, you have mail." And I was like, "I didn't buy anything." I was like, "What did you get me?" And I kind of knew.
Yeah.
Just because I think he showed it to me a couple days ago. He was like, "Wouldn't it be so cool?" And I was like, "We don't need that."
Right.
It's okay.
But it's
so
also kind of adorable.
No, it's funny. It's funny.
It's like we don't need it. However, it's like a nice
funny. It'd be
For the Plot podcast.
Exactly.
Take
For
one.
the Plot podcast. Okay, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Okay, good.
I feel like, yeah. I mean, you're like one of my closest friends, so it's very easy to just yap with you. I'm just so proud of you. I think that's how I'm feeling. I'm so proud of you for starting this entire thing and diving into something that you're really excited about. And I just I think that is what gives me so much energy today, and just being here with you and seeing you in your element. It just makes my day.
You're so sweet. You're gonna make me cry today.
I know.
That's not on the agenda. That's not on the agenda. Well, I want to thank you, my dear Ayorinde, for joining me today as the very first guest on For the Plot podcast. When I think of people in my life that are go-getters, know what they want, and just do anything to get exactly where they want to go, you are one of those people to me. And I find that really inspirational because a lot of people aren't self-starters. I think that's what it is. You're such a self-starter. And when I came up with this idea, I knew right off the bat that you were one of the first people I wanted to talk to because you have so much advice I feel like you could give to other people that are maybe struggling to self-start or struggling to figure out what it is that they want to be doing. So I'm just really, really excited to have you on today just go deeper at another level that maybe we never have before.
No, I am so honored to be here, and I just really appreciate your words. I think it's so funny to people's perceptions of me versus my perception of myself can sometimes be two completely different things. And so to hear you say that really, really means a lot. I'm so excited to talk today.
I'm so pumped. All right. Well, we're going to dive right in. So I know that you grew up in Chicago, and I think that's the only thing I actually know about your childhood and background.
Yeah.
So can you tell the people a little bit about where you grew up, the people that you were surrounded with growing up, and how that influenced you as a child?
Yeah. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago, lived with my mom, single parent, and was essentially raised by my mom and my grandma. They were kind of in there all the time doing all the things for me. And I think that my childhood was very creative.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you were surrounded by feminine energy growing up.
So much feminine energy, for better or for worse. But yeah, I went to a Waldorf school, which is, I don't think anyone has heard of it. Essentially, it's basically a school where you do pretty much all of your learning through the lens of creativity. So, for example, we'd have morning lesson from 8 to 10 a.m. every day, and our teacher would teach us whatever it was that day on the chalkboard, and then we would have to write down and depict whatever we learned that day, either writing or a picture, right? Yeah. And so my 3rd through 8th grade, I was at this school where they very much discouraged any type of media. So
Whoa.
TV, yeah, a lot of people, I missed several classics during that era of my life because I wasn't really supposed to be watching movies or TV or anything like that.
Did your grandma and your mom allow you to watch TV at home, or was it?
They did. Oh, I absolutely. They didn't. I don't think they cared that much.
Okay.
But when it comes to classic movies and stuff,
yeah,
if
people are oh, have you seen Polar Express? You're what is that?
I have seen Polar Express.
Okay.
So it's a 50-50 chance whether or not I've seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know how to knit, crochet, sew, all of these things. We did yearly field trips in nature. So I've
That's
been camping. Wild. We rock climbed. We did caving. Yeah.
You did caving as a kid?
Yeah.
Wait, you sound like you went to the most fun or like elementary school, whatever, in your formative years. That sounds like so much fun. That sounds like every kid's dream.
I was raised by a granola mom and like went to a very granola school. It was a lot of fun. I think that, you know, I started going there when I was 8 or so. Yeah. And so that's kind of all I knew was to be creative and to kind of invent things with my hands, and was very in touch with nature and all that good stuff from a young age. So, yeah. So
you got that experience of creativity in school. Did you also experience that at home growing up as well?
Yeah. I mean, especially my dad's side of the family, all of my siblings are super creative. So I'm the baby of 5. My sister is a singer and a dancer and now a yoga teacher. Most of my brothers have done various types of performing, whether behind the scenes or, you know, as talent or what have you. And so there was I come from a very, I think, artistic family. Yeah.
How did you choose business, actually? Because I know that's what you ended up majoring in college. So what was the decision process for majoring in business? And then my follow-up question to that is, like, how did that affect your creativity?
Yeah,
it killed it. For creativity.
No, so I actually came to college, or started college, as a comm major. Okay. Comms co-ops were a lot harder. They paid way less and didn't really do as much for you. And so I was like, okay, well, let me do business with a concentration in marketing. Marketing is kind of the easiest thing that I can get into, but also I like it more. I think it's fun, you know? So that was kind of my transition. And then I did business and kind of started preparing myself for corporate.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the people who are listening who don't know, Ayorinde and I met in college, and the university we went to required us to work full-time for 6 months starting our sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
So by the time we graduated, we had about a year and a half of like professional work experience under our belt. And as much as I credit the university we went to for putting us in a position that allows us to be where we are today in our careers, I also credit it with kind of like killing our dreams early on.
Oh yeah.
And giving us, you know, this blueprint of what we think our lives should look like. So it's interesting now, knowing the people that we graduated with, we're all kind of going through this crisis of like, wait, we did the thing college told us we should do, but we're feeling more stuck than we should feel.
Absolutely.
So, but going back to what you were saying, so it sounds like you transferred into the business school for monetary reasons, right? Like you're looking out for your future, you're looking out for your financial stability, you know, like you want to make sure that you're in a good spot in your career down the line. So you're already setting up the foundation for that. So how did that affect your relationship with your creativity?
It killed it. I'll say it again. It killed it. I don't think that I was that creative at all in college. I think that I was so focused on school. I was so focused on my co-ops and achieving and getting good grades and, you know, being with my friends. I think that the glimmer of creativity I got was my sophomore year of college.
Yeah, what happened?
My therapist at the time told me to start bullet journaling. Essentially, you can make these like really intricate layouts with all these fun colors and pens, and I was into it.
You could like doodle and draw.
Yeah, or you could like create little layouts for like your daily or your weekly plan, and then you fill that stuff in. So I actually wasn't even writing as much. Like I wasn't journaling as much as I was just really geeked about lots of pretty pens and colors and highlighters and being able to kind of make it my own. Basically, I just fell into this bullet journaling world, and then that then kind of opened things up my third year. I was in California on my second co-op, and, you know, I don't know, there's something about the Bay Area. unlocked something in me. I was so happy and just so carefree. And that was around the time I was discovering meditation again and mindfulness. And I was listening to this great podcast that's no longer around, but it was amazing, Black Girl in Om podcast.
Yeah.
And just like was really understanding what it meant to care for myself and like what wellness meant to me.
Yeah.
I was in California with a few other co-ops, and we're just living our best lives in Northern California in the, early 2017, and decided to start this blog, Bright Eyed Joy.
So was this the birth of Bright Eyed Joy?
Yes, this was Bright Eyed Joy 1.0.
So you're fresh off a breakup, you're shipped off to California for 6 months for this internship, and you're like reconnecting with parts of yourself that you haven't met in a really long time. You're listening to podcasts, you're journaling, you're having like your eat, pray, love moment in California. Okay, so tell me about Bright Eyed Joy 1.0. What was the goal of this online blog? Like, where did it start from? What thoughts were you putting out there on the internet?
My thought process was that there were not a lot of Black women in the self-care and wellness space. And I think often Black women put a lot of pressure on ourselves to just like do and not really pay attention to what's going on internally. And I wanted to be someone out there who was talking about these things. Yeah. I think my approach was just like, let me write a bunch of stuff about self-care and wellness and see what gratitude prompts and mindfulness and blah, like all of those things.
Were you thinking about it in a lens? Because I know you mentioned earlier at the time you weren't seeing a lot of Black women do this online. Were you thinking about this at the time? Like, oh, I'm going to trailblaze this, or was that not?
Yeah, I think Black Girl in Om really inspired me. To this day, I have so many friends, because I actually ended up working on the Black Girl in Om brand for a bit on their social. When that came about, I was like, wow, I also want to be a part of this movement, a part of this space, and I want Black women to know that they matter, to know that they do have a place in this world, to know that they do deserve to take care of themselves and just spend time reflecting and going inside and, making space for themselves, I think. So that's a big reason why I went into it.
Going back to Bright Eyed Joy 1.0, so you're putting out wellness content, you're putting your thoughts out on the internet. How did it feel for you putting yourself on the internet for the first time?
It was really exciting at first. And I also had a friend who was doing it as well. So I think we were kind of in it together a bit. Having her there normalized it a lot for me, where I didn't feel as nervous about it, but it was very nerve-wracking. Every time I got home, I was trying to work on that thing, right? It gave me so much energy, but I think at the same time, being in college and already being in a space where I think I never felt like I fit in, it was kind of hard to come out as like the woo-woo-ish girl or the girl who's talking about mental health. So to then kind of announce myself on the internet in that way was a lot, but it was received really well.
That was going to be my next question, is like the people around you, the people who knew that you were doing this, like what were their reactions?
It was received really well. Like either they didn't have a reaction, or people were like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, or I read this blog post today and it was so good, da da da. So I did get a lot of support, and I think that's another big thing, is that for the most part, I received a ton of support.
Yeah.
And that helped me a lot, just kind of build confidence and get excited about it and continue to put stuff out too.
Yeah. Support goes a long way. I feel like even if you have a few people cheering for you, you just automatically think that you can do this, right? Like you can conquer this, anything is possible. So I'm so glad that you had that support system, and that you continue to grow your support system over time too. Like that's really special. Did you ever have any imposter syndrome when you were writing for the first time?
I think so. I think what saved me was that I was like, how many people are really going to see this? Like 10? I was just kind of like,
you're like, I'm not famous.
Yeah. So I was like, whatever, just, I think I tried to focus on being like really writing from my heart. 'Cause that was when I figured out just how much I loved writing. And so I was just kind of like, all right, just write from your heart, try to be informative. Yeah. And literally like 10 people are going to see this. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's how I gaslit myself into doing it.
I love that. Sometimes you just need to gaslight yourself into thinking that it's all going to work out, and it probably will work out.
Yeah.
So you've started writing on the internet about wellness. How did things evolve after that in terms of your creativity? And also you're doing college at the same time. So let's actually start with, how are you juggling this with school?
It was easier to balance it while I was on co-op, I think, than it was when I was in school, because school, obviously, you're doing homework after hours, all that good stuff. But it was fine. I think it naturally kind of ebbed and flowed, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes I would be really on it and sometimes I wasn't, but I also really tried to give myself a break and a breather.
Yeah. So how did writing this blog online kind of evolve over time?
Yeah. So Bright Eye Joy 1.0 was kicking for a few years through college. After college, I moved to New York and went full blown into full-time work, right? Pretty much stopped after that. The blog stopped. And I think it just outgrew it a little bit. Also, blogging wasn't really a thing anymore. I think the new blog is Substack now. But blogging just wasn't really a thing at that time. And I was very engulfed in my first few years of corporate. So I kind of abandoned it and thought that I was going to put down Bright Eye Joy forever, right? And then I became certified as a bar instructor at the end of 2019.
Can we pause there for a second?
Yep.
What led you to becoming a bar instructor?
So when I moved to New York, I was like, the adult thing to do would be to exercise. And so
grown of you.
Literally, I was just like, I need to start working out. Haven't really been I think too, in college, I had a more unhealthy relationship with working out. And so I completely stopped, right? Because I just had to kind of reset my mental state around it. Mm-hmm. So I just like had to do a lot of healing in that space for a few years, where the only quote unquote workout I did was yoga. I was doing yoga a lot in 2018 after my mom had introduced it to me early on when I was 7. But I knew then that I wanted to become a yoga teacher one day.
Wait, she introduced it to you when you were 7?
Yeah.
You're doing downward dog with your mom at 7?
I was.
That's so
yes.
cute.
My mom, she did her yoga teacher training. And so naturally she's going to get her kid to do it with her.
That's precious. I had no idea.
Oh yeah. That is how I was introduced to yoga. And then she was always trying to get me to do yoga. Never wanted to do it.
We never want to do the things where parents are wanting us to do when we're
kids. The amount of seeds my mother has planted that took a good 10 years to really flourish and bloom. Like, I tell her all the time, I'm like, oh yeah, I did this EFT tapping stuff. Didn't I tell you to do that like 5 years ago? Yes, that's not the point.
Yes, Mom, not the point.
It's not the point.
I'm telling you now.
My energy field feels a lot better now. That's the point, okay?
I want to interview your mother. Your mother sounds like so much fun.
She's hilarious. Wow, I got completely sidetracked.
No, all good. We were talking about how did you decide on bar?
Yeah. So took a break from movement and was kind of easing my way back into the exercise space. And so I was exploring all these different studios, and landed on this one studio called Shakti Bar. And I think the reason I loved it was because bar studios are not that welcoming of people who aren't, don't have a certain profile, right? And, I'm a Black girl. I was curvier and like big curly hair. And I would walk into a lot of these workout spaces feeling really overwhelmed because I didn't feel like I belonged. So I started bar and I loved it. And I loved how this specific studio did it. And I was like, you know what? I want to become an instructor because again, back to representation in the wellness field. Mm-hmm. That's always been my thing, is that like, I want to be another Black woman in the wellness space so that other Black women feel like they belong, like they matter.
That's so admirable, because I feel like a lot of people would, in your shoes, if they were in that situation, think to themselves like, oh, this is a scary place. Maybe it's not a place that I want to continue going to, or a place that I feel welcomed in. Like, I'm not going to continue putting myself in this situation. But you are the complete opposite. You're like, I'm going to run head first into the deep end, and I'm going to be the one to like revolutionize this space. And I think that's so cool, because I feel like most people would probably shy away from it.
I think there's just part of me that really loves to lead and really loves to also just, again, create safer spaces for women of color to feel like they can be in.
Yeah, I'm already seeing parallels between this as well as your initial intention for starting Bright Eye Joy, right? Like, you want it to be the one to show other Black women, like, hey, you can also be in this space. Like, look what I'm doing.
Or just like, welcome to exercise in general. You know what I mean? I think that at least in my family, in the Black family I grew up in, it wasn't really a thing, right? And so there's this thing that keeps you so healthy and so strong and just so able to do so many things. And yet a lot of us only work out to lose weight. Right. But I think that's also a societal thing, quite honestly.
I think so too, yeah.
I think it's totally a societal thing where people typically are working out because they're trying to lose weight, which we can get into later because I have my thoughts on that. But I think that was the other thing is just like, again, inclusivity. You belong in this space, or you belong in a space where you can journal your thoughts out and reflect and move your body. You belong in a space where you can meditate and just relax. Right? Like, you belong in these spaces.
So there are so many people who maybe feel like they don't want to pursue a side hustle because they don't look the part. They don't fit the profile of what someone might look like in that industry. What advice would you give them?
I would say, I think that the less representation we have, the more people feel alienated, right? So for those people who don't feel like they fit the profile, just because you look a certain way does not mean you're not strong. It does not mean you're not healthy. You know what I'm saying? The picture of health is very different depending on the body.
Yeah.
So like that is my take on fitness and like getting into that space and feeling like, oh, you don't look the part. There is no look.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that should be taken out of the equation entirely. I think my thing is, if you are passionate about it, if it is on your heart, if it's something that keeps calling to you, then you do belong there, because it would not be on your heart if it wasn't meant for you.
I love that response. I don't think you could have put it any better. It's like, if you want to do it, just go do it. There shouldn't be a profile of what you look like, your skin color, what your hair looks like, what your body looks like. Like, you should just go do it if it's something that you feel like you're passionate about or something that you want to explore. Like, who cares what other people think? How did things evolve after that in terms of your creativity?
I was teaching in a studio for a while, and then COVID happened, so obviously lots of shutdowns and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I kind of resurfaced with bar, I taught independently. So I literally rented out a studio space in Greenpoint, bought a bunch of hand weights from Target, bought resistance bands, like got all the equipment that we needed. And then I promoted my own classes. I essentially just created my own space to teach in. A lot of that happened where I just kind of did it on my own. And it was so fun and so beautiful. When I was doing it, I would like host, and then I kind of branched out, hosted journaling and bar workshop, right?
Yeah.
So like we would journal and do reflective prompts based on a certain theme, and then we would do a bar class and like sweat it all out and like really feel good at the end.
Yeah.
Those were even more fun because like we would have sharing time and people would get to know each other, and then I'd see at the end they were swapping Instagrams, and it was just like, yes, like this is what I want to do, you know, like create community and safe spaces for people to reflect and go deeper, and also like connect with more people who were like-minded.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, because your initial intention of teaching bar was to show people that they belong in these spaces, and then you yourself grew a community through this side hustle, and you made it all happen on your own. That's the other really impressive thing. Like, you are the one lugging the weights. You are the one doing the marketing. You are the one doing outreach. Like, you did all of this by yourself. For a lot of people, they think that they need to have a team, or they need to have a partner, or it's less scary to have like a co-founder or a business partner, like someone that they could do something with. But you are walking, talking proof that you could literally do everything on your own.
Yeah. And the thing is, I grew up in a single parent household. It was just my mom doing everything. And so that was modeled for me as a way to live. And so, yes, it's great to be like, oh, I did all of this stuff by myself. I don't think that's the way you need to do things, right? Like, I think it is beautiful to have other people really actively taking a part in supporting you. And so to me, it's more of this realization of like, yeah, you can do all these great things, but it is so much better when you do it with people around you who support you and who love you and who you can pour into, but then they're also pouring into you. Like, that is when you feel the most full. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there's all these wonderful achievements that I have, but at the end of the day, what I care about most is like, you know, how does my heart feel?
Yeah.
How am I connecting with other people?
Right.
You know, are those bonds strong? Because that's how you live a really full life. And so I think at this phase of my life, I'm really trying hard to make sure
Like,
that I
nurture those
balance that out.
relationships. Okay. I want to pivot to talking about what comes next after you teach bar.
Was teaching bar from 2019 through 2021, and then put down bar for a little bit because we were all virtual, and I do not like virtual teaching. Oh God. I actually started a newsletter that was called 20 something stories.
I remember the moment you decided to start this newsletter.
Yeah.
Tell us at a high level, like what you were going through. What was the catalyst for starting this?
Yeah.
You know, like what was going on in your life at the time?
I think that I just had a lot of crazy experiences where I ended up just being like, WTF, what is this? What is going on? And I kept kind of thinking to myself, like, wow, your 20s is a crazy time. Like, this is an actual roller coaster. And I feel like no one is really talking about it, and no one's really being candid about their experiences. And so I know I felt like I was just kind of on this island. I was like, am I the only one having these insane experiences, encountering these insane people? You know, like, is it just me? And obviously it wasn't.
Yeah.
But again, I think my thing has always been, how can I make other people feel more included and feel like someone else understands me and understands things that I'm going through. The hardest thing was being perceived. And I think in my 20s, especially my mid 20s, I think I was 25 at the time. Oh, I was just so much more anxious about being perceived on the internet and people following me and listening to me talk about these really vulnerable topics.
Yeah. But it's just interesting because like you're putting out these vulnerable topics that a lot of people our age at that time, you were ahead of our time. A lot of people of us at 25 years old, we're having these same experiences that you're having, but none of us are brave enough to put it out there in the public, right?
Yeah.
Like we all want our lives to look picture perfect, exactly what social media like exactly what we use social media for. Like we put the highlights on there, but you were ready and able and more than willing to put out like the messy parts of your 20s as well, which I think is so brave for a 25-year-old because there's so much fear around perception, like public perception. Were there any unexpected or surprising responses you got by putting your story out there on 20 something stories?
I always did. I think that was the great part, is that there were people who would come out of the woodwork and be like, wow, I read that newsletter. It resonated so deeply with me that I've gone through something similar. And I think that is what kept, every time someone would email me back and be like, hey, I love this story. It was so amazing to hear you talk about it because of XYZ reason. It was the best part, you know, just people being like, thank you so much for putting that out there. And I think that's what kept me doing it.
But it's so cool to see people who you maybe like haven't talked to in years, even strangers too, reach out and be like, hey, I really resonate with this thing, because that means you're doing something right in a way, right? Like you're doing something, you're making an impact, you're making people feel less alone, which I feel like is actually also very aligned with like what we're trying to do here today too. Okay, so you mentioned that you were a Nike instructor at one point. Can you talk a little bit about how that came to be?
Yes, I still am. I became a Nike trainer in 2023, and I was posting essentially like little mini bar workout videos on my Instagram. That is a time where I feel like I was really, really good at being consistent, and I had a lot more discipline. When you're consistent, regardless of how many people, because that's another thing, people will be on your Instagram and not like it and just look at it.
They won't engage. They'll just look.
They're not going to engage. They're going to look. When Nike reached out, I was like, me? I was like, what do you mean? Me? But it was a product of me being very consistent and continuing to post things that I remember one time, I was so embarrassed. So I was doing an arms workout video. And after I filmed it, I realized that like I hadn't really shaved my armpits. And so it was like an itty bit, like really small. And so then I looked back and I was like, oh my God, you have hair under your armpits. You cannot post this video. You cannot post this video. And then I posted it. And then it was like one of my more liked ones. And I was like, see,
isn't that so funny?
Exactly.
How,
Nobody's paying attention to your armpits.
No one's paying attention to the things that we think are important.
Exactly. And I think when I was really putting myself out there consistently, I may not have had a ton of followers, but still was sought out regularly by people for opportunities, for big opportunities. And so that's the thing. Just put yourself out there. People might not be liking your stuff. That doesn't mean they're not seeing it. That doesn't mean the right people aren't seeing it.
I love that lesson because I feel like most people think that you have to have a big following or you have to have a really big audience. But you can just start with a small following as long as you're consistent. Like consistency is key. And in this case, that's what got you noticed by Nike. I know that yoga was the next step after becoming a Nike trainer. Why then? Like, why in that moment did you decide to go for your certification? Like, what was going on in your life?
I had planned it for a while.
Okay.
I had been searching for different trainings and figuring out, which training would work for me. I, at the time, had enough savings that I felt like I was comfortable to be like, okay, I can dedicate this amount of money to training. And so I kind of just was like, all right, girl, this is the time. This is the perfect time for where you're at in your 9-to-5 right now. Also, again, going through lots of learnings in my personal life at that time and just like dealing with heartbreak and all that good stuff. Yoga teacher training is very good for the broken heart.
For healing heartbreak,
Yes. But even like before that happened, I knew that I was going to do it during that time.
It was just a matter of when and a matter of whether or not you were in the place financially too as well, because that's an expensive certification.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is.
And since you've gotten that certification, like about a year ago, what have you done since then? And I asked that question because I know you've done so much, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, I mean, I've taught yoga workshops. I actually had this crazy opportunity at work early on in my yoga journey or yoga teaching journey where I taught yoga on set to 2 NFL players, which was insane. They're brothers. It was like really fun and a really crazy experience. I have gotten into, now I teach at a bunch of different studios around the city. I teach at Y7 Studio. I teach at Bed-Stuy Yoga. And then I also teach at 2 other studios that I sub at as well. So my permanent slots are at Bed-Stuy Yoga and Y7. Y7 is hot yoga, y'all. So just beware. It's hot and dark in there. And it's candlelit. So I think for me, my thing was that I kind of not went crazy, but I reached out to all these studios not thinking that I was going to audition and get them all.
But then you did.
Yeah. And so then I was like, oh my, I'm teaching now 5 classes a week on top of my full-time job.
It happened so quickly.
It was crazy. And then like got called back for the garden series that I did last year for this year. And that was really wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing.
What has been the biggest learning about yourself as you move through this journey?
I have learned how to take a step back. I think, you and I love our little Akashic records. But one thing that this wonderful woman told me was there's essentially no rush. You're going to get to where you're going. Why are you moving so fast?
I love that because I feel like people think that when they start something, they need to get there immediately. Like they forget to embrace the journey and embrace the ups and downs. It's almost as if you rush things more, it's going to impede you getting to your end goal. Okay, we've talked a lot about your journey, how you got to where you are today. Like, you're incredible in terms of everything that you've gone through, all of the energy that you've put into things that you're passionate about. What would you say to your younger self right now if you could tell her something?
I would say, like, to my high school, college age self, stop being so hard on yourself. What I'm more recently discovering is that there is a lot of light within me that I've kind of stifled over the years as I've tried to figure out who I am and what I want to do and what my place is in the world. And it's made me really nervous about being perceived. What I would say is just be yourself. Allow for your light to shine and be confident in who you are, and just don't be afraid. Do not be hard on yourself. I think I used to be so hard on myself and so self-conscious about every single thing I did.
Yeah.
I put so much pressure on myself to be perfect. Now I'm in this place where it's kind of like, listen, you're going to make mistakes.
So I think one thing we can all agree on walking away from this is that you have mastered the art of understanding when you need something different in your life. What would you say to those people who are listening who are feeling like they've outgrown the life that they're living and they're not really sure what to do about that?
I mean, I gave you this advice not too long ago, so I'm gonna just repeat it.
You did, and now here we are, like a couple months later.
I love it, but I think my thing is just explore. Yeah. Really explore. Take time to do things that excite you, that intrigue you, to understand what it is that you like. I would have never gotten back into running. Who knew that would happen?
You have always hated running. You have never been a runner.
I've been a hot girl walker. I have, and then suddenly, all of a sudden, I'm risking my knees. I don't know, but I would have never gotten into running again after being into it for a short stint of time for the wrong reasons. If I didn't just try it one day and see how it made me feel. Explore things, see how they make you feel. And also, not everything needs to be turned into like a side hustle and monetized, right? I think that's a big thing that happens in New York specifically. We are always trying to brand ourselves. And I can't say much because I do have a personal brand. However, not if you want to paint, just paint.
We had this conversation when I first started painting.
We also had this conversation. You're like, I'm not good at it. Who cares, Annie? Like, no one cares if you're good at it. Do you like it? Do you enjoy it? Does it make your heart feel happy? Do you light up? Do you get energy?
We had this exact conversation at a dinner like about a year ago when I was complaining that like I wasn't good at it and I was having breakdowns, and she'd be like, who cares? Just do it if it's fun. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a choice. We can do that. We can choose to do things just for fun, not because we're good at it. A big theme that's come out of the conversation that we've had today is just be consistent. Just be consistent. Do the things that interest you, like you genuinely have an interest in because they drive purpose. And don't do it for the money. Don't do it for the clout. Do it for yourself. And I love that because that is something that you have stayed true to your entire 20s.
Listen, embrace learning. There is so much joy in learning something new. There really is. Like, not being good at something, quote unquote, and then just slowly, gradually getting better. It's so much fun. It really is.
It's so stimulating.
Exactly. And then it's really great where you're like, oh, wow, I've really improved from this time or that time. That's an exciting thing. Embrace learning. And then you will naturally find the things, maybe you do want to create a side hustle, but you will naturally find what it is that you want to do if you just explore.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best advice you've ever given me. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today and being my first guest. I feel like we've been friends for years, but I feel like I've learned so much more about you sitting on this couch than we ever had at any dinner in New York.
Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be the first guest. I was truly like about to cry when you told me. I was like, wait a minute, not me.
Of course you. Are you kidding?
No, but I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited for where this journey is going to take you, and I cannot wait to cheer you on and support every step of the way.
Thank you. I love you so much.
I love you.
All right, that's a wrap. Yay! Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Be sure to check back in next Wednesday morning for the next episode drop. Before you leave, hit subscribe on my YouTube channel and be sure to follow me on any major podcast streaming platforms. I'll see you guys next week.